This is a PSA to always be aware of your surroundings. I'm gonna try and make this as short as I can, but it's a long story and there's a lot of details. So yesterday I got home from a trip and I took a Lyft from the airport to my house by myself. While I was in the Lyft, I ordered Chipotle to be delivered to my house through their app. The Lyft driver had no reason to think that I was home alone or that no one else was in the house, but he did know that he was dropping me off by myself. Like 10 minutes after I was home, I got a notification on my phone that my driver was here to drop off my food. But this driver knocked on the door and waited, and then knocked again and waited, and knocked 4 times in like a 10-minute time span. And in my head, I'm like, okay, dude, just leave. I'll get the food in a sec. After the 4th time that he knocked and being there for like 10 minutes, he sat down on my porch and stayed there for like 45 minutes. He had no reason to think that I was home alone, but I was, so I wasn't gonna open the door with him right there, knowing that I'm by myself. My other deliveries usually just get left on the porch and then they leave. Anyway, so I called my neighbor who was down the street to come up and just kind of see if he'll leave if someone else pulled in the driveway. And he did, but he went and sat in his car. So my neighbor came in my house and the guy stayed in his car for like another 30 minutes and then slowly drove away. After about 10 more minutes, my neighbor was like, okay, hopefully he left. I'm gonna go home, I have an appointment. So my neighbor left and then texted me like 5 minutes later. He didn't leave, he's actually sitting like 3 houses down the street. And now he's talking to a blue van. I checked the porch and I don't have my food. So he waited there for like 45 minutes on my porch, plus another 30 to 45 minutes in his car, and I still didn't get my food. Weird. So now I know that the guy's still down the street, my neighbor's gone at an appointment, and I don't know what to do. So I waited like 20 more minutes, then I got in my car and drove down the street to see if he was still there. He was. And at this point I didn't know what to do. So I called a family friend and he met me somewhere around my neighborhood. We then drove back to my house, he followed me, came inside, and then we called the police. The cops came, I told them what happened, we were talking a little bit, and then they decided to have another detective come. Once he showed up, they asked if they could search the house and the perimeter of the house, and then we talked about the next steps, basically. They pretty much asked me if my Lyft driver possibly knew that I was home alone, which there was no way he would have known that I was home alone. Obviously, he dropped me off by myself, but he had no reason to think that there was no one inside the house. Then the cops said that they were going to make sure that all the doors and windows were locked and pretty much go back, run the plates on the cars, and see what they can find. I really hate to do this, but you'll have to come back to part 2.